ghettos or the communities. Like they excommunicated Spinoza because they felt that his modern views in Amsterdam in the 1600s were bringing discredit on the community, but they didn't try to kill him or anything. They just said, you know, get out of the community, you're causing trouble, and so on and so on. So, I mean, I'm not giving them any special brownie points, but I'm just saying that they haven't done this for a long, 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 long time. The problem is, and that's where if you meet Jews, you'll find so many different views among them. They don't agree on anything, and they're all different forms of Judaism, and the one form doesn't agree with the other, and there's no central authority, and nobody can force another Jew to believe anything, and there's no priesthood, and there are no rabbis who anyone is prepared to admit has any real authority, because there's always someone else to say that, well, you don't have any authority. So if you've ever met Jewish people, you'll understand that that's how they think, and they don't, there are some who are under authority, but the others don't recognize that authority. And only the ones who recognize the authority they're under. Look what happened in Israel. The rabbis all said you couldn't leave Gaza, and 75% of the people voted to leave Gaza. So, I mean, it shows how much power the rabbis have, zero. In fact, I think 70% of the people voted to leave just because the rabbis said that they should stay. That's how ornery they are about these things. So they don't recognize any authority, any theological authority as such, in an official way anymore, and haven't done so since before the time of Christ, I don't think. Anyway, so what are we dealing with here? The Old Testament is the Word of God. Mostly, I think, Christians believe that. Jews, some religious Jews believe that too. But I'm not against their believing that. I think that's a good thing in many ways, to care about God, divine things, to be afraid of divine things, to hold some things sacred, to make some things holy. Everything shouldn't be a maelstrom, chaos, and so on. People should be in awe of some things, I think. Holiness is a wonderful feeling. Purity is a great thing. Vegetarianism is a great thing if you can do it. Feeling bodily purified is a great thing, I think. I don't think that corruption feels good. I don't think it's good to degrade the body or the senses and things like that. So I don't think this holiness that's inspired by the idea that you think some books are holy and that there is a Word of God is necessarily a bad thing for society and for personal life. I'm not against that. So don't think I'm just a free thinker in that regard. I'm not. I just want people to use their brain. And I think in a university we're obliged to use our brain on things. We're obliged to use our intelligence. Now, I hope that all the classes here, because I hate to have to go through all this for some folks who never heard it before, and then explain that, well, you know, we already said all that in the first day, and then have to repeat some of it, which I'm afraid is going to happen. In any event, the problem with the Word of God and looking at the Bible as the Word of God, that's a very authentic doctrine that developed particularly among Protestants, fundamentalist Protestants, evangelical Protestants. There are many denominations of Protestantism, as you know, some high church Protestantism that don't have this idea, like Anglicans or Lutherans or people of that sort of Protestantism, Presbyterians probably, etc. But then there are lots of other groups that do have that idea. And the reason was really important. They said it was a democratic reason. You see, they felt the church wasn't paying attention to the Bible, really, and the Word of God, as they call it. They felt the church, or even the church authorities of the particular denomination they had come from, were ignoring these things in favor of catechisms and things like that, or papal domination, papal infallibility. And they said, no, there is no person over us. There is no rule over us. Each man is his own independent judge. All that man or woman needs is the Bible, because in the Bible is the Word of God, and he can read the Word of God as well as anyone else. So originally it was a very American frontiers ideology, frontier related ideology where people like Abraham Lincoln or Davy Crockett or someone like that would take the Bible out to the frontier and read it, and they'd be their own arbiter of whether it said to them what they felt they should say or think or didn't say those things. So I think originally the Bible as the Word of God was very healthy, anti-authoritarian ideology or doctrine. It said, we can judge for ourselves. We have the book, we can read it ourselves, this is the Word of God, and we can determine these things ourselves. So basically it's a democratic idea. But what happened was, as time went on and the frontier disappeared and so on and so forth, the more conservative exponents of this ideology then began to say that the Bible was infallible. There was nothing in the Bible that could be questioned. The Bible was the ultimate word, that everything in the Bible was absolutely true, that it was totally perfect, and it became a sort of dominant ideology in itself after a while, when originally it was a doctrine against authority of others, saying, I can make my own mind up. But then they started to use the Word of God, and they still are now. You have to accept the Bible view of creation, or of Noah's Ark, or something like that. And if you're a university person, you really can't accept the Noah's Ark story. You've been to biology classes. You know it's just a very effective literary presentation of events that may or may not have happened in that way. Why do you know that? Well, if you've done biology, you know that the species are not limited to what you can stick on an ark 5,000 years ago. That there are creatures in the Galapagos Islands and every other place that have developed, for millions of years. And that you also know we've even got creatures in this continent we haven't even discovered yet. They're still looking for the ivory-billed woodpecker. Did Noah put the ivory-billed woodpecker in his ark? I mean, this is a story for children, which is nice. We like to be children. It appeals to children, and it's a nice story. And you can take a meaning out of it, but scientifically, it cannot explain the universe, the biological universe as we have it. It makes an attempt to, but I don't think the authors ever meant it to either. It was just their attempt to say something about how evil developed in the world. It was a literary story. And one of the confusions is mistaking literature for history. And when the people who get the Word of God too seriously, the Bible's word, then